What's going on YouTube? Carfiking here, and so today guys I wanted to bring you my Evil Line stack build of Beelzemon. It's obviously differently from the warp build that I showed you guys on the channel already. This build focuses more on building up a line into the EX2 Beelzemon rather than focusing on putting a bunch of Entmons onto the board, spamming them out, and then warping into the BT2 secret Beelzemon and things like that. I wanted to get a tournament under my belt with the deck first, so I ended up playing in locals tonight with the deck, and we went X1, only losing to my buddy playing Blue Hybrid. It's obviously just Blue Hybrid. It's just such a hard match, especially if you have a good pilot for the deck. It's just really hard matchup. Played around a lot of outs, but you know, again, just when just unfortunate things happen, nothing you could really do about it. You just take the lump and move on. But we lost to him in the finals. But before that, we ended up beating Beelstar, my wife, Titamon, and D Reaper. We climbed up against D Reaper. So overall, felt pretty good about the build. There were some things that definitely may want to change. It's not my favorite version of Beelzemon. As you guys know, I love playing the war build. That's what I have a lot of experience with. But this stack version, whatnot, my buddy Ed topped with a version of his version of this deck at the Philly Regionals, and but he and I and some others have been working on Beelzemon for months prior to it coming out. So you know, again, just I really enjoy the deck. I really do like both builds, and I just love this deck in general. So I hope I give you guys a lot of good information, and you know, tell me what you guys think. So going into it, we play the Devyzed that from the BT8. We play Pagumon in the warp build because we don't really want our stuff, or Pagumon because we want our stuff to die. We want our stuff to die to security, to die to other Digimon, so we can start milling. We can really fill the trash. That's why that build is more the turbo. What this one is that when you trash a card from your deck, you draw cards. You don't mind building up your hand advantage, and you'll see it when we go through more of the deck profile, as far as, you know, being comfortable with holding Beelzemon, blast one in your hand, trying to find your pieces over, trying to spam the board and things like that. And again, the focus of this deck is really building up to that Beelzemon, and then letting him control the board. So that's why we run for this. You're going to be holding yourself and raising quite a bit as you do build your stack. So I felt like it's only 4. This is really the only egg that I want to see and benefit from. And then for rookies, play 2 Psychmon. Players cannot reduce play costs. You want to use Psychmon for the D Reaper matchup, for the Imperial matchup, things like that. And then we're coming to the end of EX2, so I think I may end up switching to Gazimon, just for the fact that, you know, a lot of decks in the BT9 format are going to be utilizing memory more so than anything else. 4 copies of the BT2 Impmon, 4 copies of the EX2 Impmon, and then 4 copies of the BT6 Impmon. Let me go ahead and get that over here just like that. Alright. So this Impmon, on deletion, you trash the top 3 cards of your deck. This Impmon we don't lean on this Impmon as much as we do in the warp build. It's definitely good for getting your setups. It's good for like your turn 1 play Digivolve on top of the Devyzed and the egg and the raising, and then dropping this to the field, and then you can raise next turn, swing, mill 3, draw a card, you know, get certain combos off, get your deck moving, so to speak. But you don't really look to lean on this card as much in this version, as again we're trying to build up, so we're prioritizing more or less getting to our level 4s, our level 5s, so we can climb up to the Beelzemon, to the creepymon and whatnot. This Impmon here, really good. When you mill it, you get to trash up to you may trash up to 3 cards from top of your deck when you mill it from something that's not his own ability. So if you use his ability to mill other copies, you can't do it. But he's your searcher. He's your combo piece grabber. You know, if you need to find your Beelzemon, you want to get to your Ayamako, being able to play him out, look at the top 4 to grab a Beelzemon, to grab an Ayamako, just a really strong card. But I think the best thing about him is his inheritable, which is you get 3,000 when your Beelzemon during your turn. Your Beelzemon gets 3,000 DP. Really good. It puts warp Beelzemon to 14, puts your or puts both Beelzemons to 14, put blast mode up to 18. Just a really strong inheritable, and this is really the cards you want to build on top of. And then we obviously have the BT6 Impmon, where you can trash a card in your hand, and then you can return a card with 7 Great Demon Lords or 3 Muskets from your trash to your hand. Now remember, blast mode is not a 7 Great Demon Lords, so you can't grab him off of this card, but that's fine, because a lot of times what we're doing is we're going to trash the blast mode and either trash it to grab nothing or trash it to grab a Beelzemon or a creepymon out. So he definitely has purpose early game. I know there's some people who don't, again, if you don't value him as much as well, you can cut him for a Psychmon, a Ghostrifter, whatever it is, but I just feel comfortable with this lineup based upon my experience with the warp build. So that's the rookies. Onto the champions. We have 4 Soulmon, 2 Dober, and 2 Loimon. This is our hybrid card, so hybrid for game is fine. Dobermon is more of a utility card. We don't play Alice, so you're not going to get the ability where you can reduce his play cost by 2 if you have Alice. We don't play Alice. But his on deletion, you trash the top 3 and then return a purple Digimon or purple Tamer card from your trash your hand. Really useful. He's more of a utility card if anything. Again, in this deck we're building up the stack, but if you do need to grab your Mako out the trash, because it's probably the setup you need, and there are matchups where you're going to need to have your Tamer on the board. You need to be starting at 3 in some matchups, especially against D-Reaper. Definitely important. Grabbing another Impmon, grabbing a Beelzemon, grabbing whatever. This card can just grab you exactly what you need and get you the mill, so it can combo off with the rest of your deck. But then you have Soulmon here. It's a 4 cost to play, so it's pretty easy to play out, kind of like you would Scatter Mode. And then when you trash a card from top of your deck as an inheritable, you gain a memory. So this really works really well with like Skull Satamon and whatnot, and Beelzemon. This is just the ideal card you want to build while you're building and raising. Obviously the deck's going to change up when we get the Wizardmon promo and whatnot, and I'll come out with some of that probably after Otakon. For level 5s, play 4 Rebellymon and 3 Skull Satamon. So Rebellymon is a very interesting card. I was working with my boy Eli Hill and Ed TCG about this as well. On Digivolve, you get to trash a card, and this card gains blocker and retaliation for the turn, and he's also a black Digimon. Tree is a black Digimon on the field, but that doesn't really matter. This card kind of just staves off, your opponent pop. If you can anticipate your opponent going for a big play, whatever it is, you can, you go into this card to prevent your opponent from doing that for at least a turn, because it only lasts until the end of your opponent's turn. The blocker retail is definitely powerful. But yeah, that's really what he's used for. And the discard is also good because it can get your blast mode out of your hand and into the trash, especially if you have the setup with the tamers, or just to get something useless out, like against D-Reapers, toss your Death Slingers out your hand, because you're not going to need them in that matchup because they don't have levels anyways. And then you have Skull Satamon. So Skull Satamon is a very interesting card in the game. So what Skull Satamon does is that when you Digivolve into him, you trash the top 2 cards, and then you add a Demon Lord card from your trash to your hand. So the thing about him is that you just got to be careful about when you play him and what you're milling. You're going to mill 2, so you can proc the Soulmon, anything like that, but there's always a chance if you mill the Beelzemon or the Blast Mode, if you don't have another Demon Lord in your trash, then you'd have to pick that up, right? You're going to have to pick up the one because you have to complete his ability on Digivolve if you do it in the battle area. And if you pick up the Beelzemon or the Blast Mode after you mill them with his ability, then they do not get their when trashing effects, because you're pulling them out of the trash before they have the chance to trigger, and they need to be in the trash to trigger their abilities. It's kind of the same reason why if you play Calling from the Darkness, don't grab the scatter mode completing Calling the Darkness ability, because it'll no longer be in the trash to trigger its ability. So that's just some situations I ran into where I digivolved in him just to get some mills off and like a draw or and a memory off the Soulmon, and I ended up milling that and then not being able to spawn an Impmon or pop a level 4. It kind of sucks. So there is cases where you really just want to just digivolve him in the raising and sacrifice that mill for when you raise him and go into Beelzemon or something. And then obviously his inheritable is when you trash card from your deck, you gain a memory. So again, I'm only playing 3 because he's better kind of like mid-game-ish, so to speak. I kind of like the Rebellion a little bit more in the early game phases, but I don't think Skull Satamon is bad. It's just, something that you do have to watch out for per the rules of the game. You have to complete abilities. Just remember that. Always complete your abilities. For level 6s, 1 Beelzemon, Secret Beelzemon from BT2, 4 Beelzemon from EX2, and 2 Creepy. So we want to focus on the Beelzemon from the EX, right? When you trash him to the top of your deck, you can play an Impmon from your trash without paying its cost. And then you can get that Impmon's ability if it has one of the on-play abilities. Really good. When you attack with him or when you Digivolve, not once per turn, you can mill the top 2 cards of your deck and then destroy one of your opponent's Digimon that's level 3 or lower, and that level increases for every 10 cards in your trash. He starts off at 1 level lower than Death Slingers, basically how you have to think about it. But he's like kind of the focus of the deck where you want to. You can basically get off a mill 4 with his ability. If you Digivolve into him, it doesn't pass turn, then you swing and you mill another 2. The Creepymons are in here because I've talked about Creepymon for a long time, about how he really just needed a deck and archetype that can work around his his initial Digivolve milling ability. Well, the Beelzemon deck, this is really the first iteration of being able to benefit off of trashing cards from the top of your deck. We really haven't had this mechanic for purple yet. So this so now that we have something where his trashing from the top of the deck we can really benefit off of, he can be played a lot more early in the game than what you see in like Mastermon builds where you're just playing him late game to deck people out. You can play this guy kind of early now. Get the mills off, especially against decks that really kind of want to go wide on you or whatnot. And if you mill so when you Digivolve into him, you trash basically 2 cards for each Digimon on your opponent's board. 2 or more Digimon means you trash 4. When you trash 4 or more, you can play a level 5 or lower. You can play a level 5 or lower purple Digimon card from your trash. So that means you can probably chain level 5 into Beelzemon, another Creepymon, whatever it is. And then when you attack with him, for every 10 cards in your trash, your opponent has to trash the top 3 cards of your deck. So 20 cards, they trash 6. 30 cards, they trash 9. 10 cards, they trash 3. This comes up a lot against D-Reaper. You get to mill a bunch of cards, you get to build a board, you can swing, you can easily keep milling them 6 every turn. He can just be a really good card if you set him up and be in the right situations. Now with the Beelzemon. Now this Beelzemon, I know my boy Ed took him out his deck. It does kind of feel a little bit lackluster, and the reason why is because you don't really want to Digivolve into him when you're building up a stack. However, I have a lot of experience with the Warp build, and I believe that I have a lot of ways that I can create situations to where this card can be very beneficial. I pretty much played this deck exclusively since EX2 came out, and I feel really comfortable with him in the deck because, again, I create situations where he's benefiting and where it's like, okay, I can't really build up a stack, but I can pivot into this card, put a level 6 on the board, possibly pop something, but I got a level 6 on the board. Now I have the opportunity, if I have an Iron Mako, I can, possibly swing and go into blast mode, or I can hard Digivolve blast mode on top of him and just get my win con on the board, things like that. You don't have to run him. You can run a different card, another Creepymon, something else in your deck, wherever else, but I just feel comfortable enough in my experience with the Warp build and how I feel like I can create situations for him that I feel comfortable with putting him in the deck and giving me a pivot, giving me some type of versatility to the lineup. And then going into level 7's 3 blast modes. I love blast mode. It's really good. When you mill it, you get to pop a level 4 or lower when you trash it from the deck, I should say. But when with Digivolving, you delete all of your Digimon opponent's Digimon with the highest level, and then for every 10 cards in the trash, he gets an extra security tech. Again, my golden number is 20. If I have 20 in the trash, he checks for 3 security. 10 or more, or 10 cards in trash under 20, he checks for 2. But ideally, if I can get to 20 cards in trash, I'm checking 3. Amazing. He's a 15k body, really good. And I'm gonna do another. I'm not gonna do it in this video, but you want at least one in the trash when you have your Iron Mako tamer on the board, so that you always have your warp play available. But the reason why I play 3 is because 1, I want to see it a little more often. 2, I want to mill it more. And 3, I kind of treat this card kind of like we did Sword back in the day. Like, I don't mind holding it in my hand, and then if I have a situation where I do have a Beelzemon on board, I can just hard Digivolve into him, blow something big up, especially with the upcoming format with 1 stacks. Go into him, blow something big up, and now I have a threatening 15k body on board that's a level 7 that my opponent has to deal with. Came up huge against Beelstar, came up huge against against D-Reaper and things like that. He's just a really good card. And again, a lot of what this deck does is, yes, you're moving through your deck quickly, but create situations to where these cards can really shine. And I think that is what's going to really help you as a player, is when you play with different decks, create those situations in game. Nothing's always going to be the perfect situation, so have your pivots, have your alternative routes, but also be able to try to create those situations. And then the option cards, 2 Miss Memory Boosts, 2 Calling, and 4 Death Slinger. So Miss Memory Boost, when you play it, you trash 2, draw 1. The trash 2 is good because you can just trash a blast mode, trash Beelzemon, spawn the Impmon, do what you gotta do, draw a card again, getting that hand advantage, and then you have a memory boost card in the field. It just really fits with the theme of the deck. You guys know it from the Warp build, fits the theme. Calling from Darkness, one of the greatest purple option cards to ever come out. Delete one of your Digimon, return up to 2 purple Digimon to your hand. Easy one, the best. Grab your, you can pop the Impmon if it didn't die security, like you hit a tamer out. Okay, I'll pop the Impmon, I'll grab a different Impmon and like a Beelzemon or something, and then I'll do the mill 3 and whatnot. This card is just fantastic in pretty much any purple deck. I mean, you want to at least run 1 in every purple deck, but 2 works out really nice in this deck. And then 4 Death Slinger. I love Death Slinger a lot. When you trash it, you gain a memory, but also it deletes level 4 or lower Digimon, and it gains 1 level for every 10 in your trash. Really good climbing. Once you get to 20 cards in trash, this deletes level 6s. Absolutely amazing. If you can get to 20 cards in your trash and before your opponent really starts to hit your security, these become just really good security bombs. But overall, it's just really powerful removal. And again, if you mill it, you benefit, and that's really what you're going for. If you mill it, I benefit. And then your tamer, Iron Mako, it's a memory setter, which is good. And then during your turn, when you attack with a Digimon, you can suspend it to mill a card. So any Digimon that you attack with in this deck, you can just suspend it to mill a card, and you can do early game combos with your Demi-Meramon. And then if the attacking Digimon is a Beelzemon, you can warp into a blast mode. Now the ruling on this card is that if you are going into blast mode, you do have to tap this mill 1. You do have to go through the full effect, tap this mill 1, then go into blast mode. You can't just, okay, I have this here, I'll attack with Beelzemon, go into blast mode. So you do have to tap it to go into blast mode. But we're only playing 3. We're not playing 4. Again, we can grab this off of the Doberman, and again, there are situations where sometimes you just don't see it, or you just really aren't in a space where you can play it, because you have to focus on building up other things just from pressure situations. And that's why I said get comfortable with holding and being able to digivolve into your blast mode from your hand. And I'll just have more discussion on the blast mode later on. But that's the deck profile, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. I hope I was able to explain everything well and kind of like my thoughts and reasonings behind it, and what I want to do with it. I'll have a lot more videos coming out, especially when it gets to BT9. Definitely look forward to upgrading this deck. Beelstar, Mastermind, you already know how it is over here. Purple all day, every day. Alright, but this has been Cardfight King, and I'm out.